Greetings of peace, everyone. This is Basim Shaban once again, your host with the Faith in Society show that we have been continuing for quite a few times now. And we are at the stage where we're discussing the importance of what many in society deem very valuable, which is the power of education for our young people and the future generations. Obviously, many people realize that education is the solution to many of our problems in society that we have been discussing for the last few episodes. So once again, we have our distinguished speakers, Pastor Stanley Murray, representing the Christian community, and Imam Muhammad Musri, representing the Muslim community. So today we're going to really talk about, in general, some of the challenges the educational system is facing, the importance of education from their respected religious backgrounds. And in future episodes, we're going to tackle some of the solutions that all of us as a community, as in the adage is, it takes a village to raise a child. And that's becoming more true every day with many of the issues that we are hearing about. So Pastor Stanley, tell us your perspective about the importance of education from your faith background and some of the issues that you have been seeing from your perspective. Pastor, you're muted.
Just want to say greetings, of course, to my good brother Imam Muhammad, and of course, your brother Basim, for your diligence to get these sessions done and put out to our generation of people. And I think first, before we can even get into the educational part, is the safety of those students who are in these educational facilities, from the elementary all the way to the college level. And I think that's been something that we have now have to put in the forefront before we can even talk about curriculums or syllabuses, assessment tests, or whatever we're looking to do. Can we find a way to have these campuses and schools and playgrounds safe? I think now we're in the back of our mind of what happened over in Uvalde, that that has been affecting just about everyone. We've come up with almost every option now. What do we do? Do we arm teachers? Do we continue to keep law enforcement on the property? Do we have enough law enforcement on the property? Does law enforcement have what it needs while it's on the property? And so there's so many things that come up. So education, of course, we all know the Bible tells us in the Christian faith that we study to show ourselves approved unto God, a workman who not to be ashamed. And so we want to be confident in our education. We want to be confident in what we learn. I just think now we have to add the component. It's very hard to be confident if I don't have the courage to even go to school because I'm in fear.
Very good.
Absolutely. I think that I want to second what the pastor just said about safety. Without safety, students cannot learn, parents cannot rest and trust that their kids are safe. So this is, most schools around the world are considered safe places and gun-free zones, but around the country, with the number of mass shootings that have happened in schools, it is on the minds of most parents today, is the school safe? And we can talk about what we think should be done, but I second that it is a major challenge of our time.
So with that, that's a great point the pastor has made, and seconded by the imam. But obviously, safety deals with many issues. Obviously, right now, a lot of people are talking about active shooter incidents, but there's a lot of involvement with drugs, access to drugs in the school system. There's gang violence, there's bullying. So there's many issues related to safety. So what are some of the things that you guys are hearing in your congregations that some of the parents, society are concerned about what they're seeing their kids need or to protect them in the school system?
I think it's just it starts with our houses of worship too. We can't leave us out of the mix. And I think, COVID, though it shut down and slowed down a lot of things, those of us who are men and women of faith, we have to still find a way to be the beacon of light to our communities. We cannot have people come to our congregational halls and not empower them to be able to sustain in the educational system. It just doesn't make sense to me. And so I truly believe that as spiritual leaders, are we taking that time to educate our youth on not just the historical meanings of what education is important to be, but also to recognize that every kid also may not have desires for college. And I think sometimes we have drilled and drilled and drilled that home about having a secondary education. So we have to also ask ourselves, what about trade school? What about small business, ownership? What could we put in place to set them up for those kinds of things?
Imam, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think we know that schools are not supposed to be one size fits all, and all children would become engineers or scientists. We need a plethora of professions out there that may not require college education, but needs more specific trade knowledge and practice, and uh, assessing and helping young people find their uh, their career early, and setting the expectation for them correctly, rather than say, oh, you're failing because you didn't go to college. But maybe they do not need to go to college. Maybe they will do much better in some other profession that does not require college education, but requires very hands-on training. And in terms of thinking about the challenges that the schools are facing, is the challenge of the social media today, that children are being attracted by the social media. The social media companies have admitted, or whistleblowers have shown, that they are targeting the youth younger and younger, and trying to, distract them and take them away. And we are seeing translation of the results in their grades. The kids are suffering, their grades are suffering, and we are seeing more children having psychological issues and social issues because their interaction in virtual reality is not matching with their interactions in reality. And social media sometimes is misused, and like in the past year, there were several times where somebody would put a challenge on TikTok that say, go break things in the bathroom in school, or go hit your teacher, or, and those craze really had their toll on teachers, on schools. And schools did not, experience this in the past before social media, but now it is getting crazy, because they, within minutes, you see something on social media and then people start acting on it, with all kids carrying their smartphones to school. So the challenge today of how to regulate social media and how to protect young minds and hearts from things that are way beyond their control is necessary.
So in addition to that source, social media and its impact, obviously, for all of our lives, whether in the school system and in the workplace and in society, do you guys see other sources of that has impacted society in a negative way, where there's obviously more violence now more addiction to whether illegal drugs or legal drugs. There seems to be a complete paradigm shift in the negative side from maybe when we grow up in our generation. So what do you attribute that to be, in addition to what I heard the Imam say about social media? Are there other factors that you feel has influenced this?
Well, I also think we are also in a period where we have not had this much of an appearance of being an unorganized country. We've never, I would think, I guess, short of the Boston Tea Party, that we have seen this much disarray from the place where liberty and order were to be produced, legalized, and sent out to the states. The place of Washington D.C. now, it is just, it makes you shake your head. We don't know who's going west and who's coming north, or who's heading south, or who's bringing in the east. We're so far right, so far left. Nobody's in the middle. Nobody's sure. Everybody's right, nobody's wrong. Everybody's wrong and nobody's doing it right. It just seems that I have not seen in my time on this earth or read in history books this much disorganization, where you, especially at the headship, if you will, in the legislative fields, if you will, even in the judiciary fields, if you will, we are continuing to see consistently. This is not just every now and then. We're seeing this consistently, disorganization from our government system, where we were considered the pillar of liberty, justice, and the freedom of the free world. It is now almost similar in retrospect. If you want to throw in, some things that happened in January a while back, some third world country type activity. I mean, we're short of an assassination attempt. If that were to come, we would be right along the lines of what we've been seeing other countries manipulate into. So I think that we're in a very icy situation where the ice is thin, and we really should take a step back as a country and say, okay, listen, other countries are watching. Other countries are listening, and they are observing how we are operating in this time and in this season. And then once again, it still goes back to our houses of worship. When our people come to us and ask us, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And of course, Imam and myself, we have to first say, well, what does God say? Because I think we'd like to say what we would like to say, but that doesn't mean what we'd like to say is credible enough for that individual to even understand. So we have to be very cautious as leaders, spiritual leaders, what we're projecting out about what's happening in politics as well.
I would add to your question about what other factors is the type of programming on TV and in the movies, and the content there has evolved to involve a lot of violence, a lot of
Yes.
glorification of drugs and the life that it creates.
Yes.
Also, we see from the gaming world that a lot of the games, they train the players to shoot and to kill and to shoot humans like the zombies. And so many of these mass shooters, sometimes they're not realizing that they are actually killing people, and people don't come back because they have done it in their game too many times, and these zombies come back to life. So we see that they're not regulating these contents properly. I remember years ago when when there was an attempt to say, what can, TV stations show and what kind of rating they should put on, giving the parents and the viewer, telling them what they're gonna, if the content is violent or rated for sexual content or others. Right now, social media is not regulated and games are hardly regulated. And, parents think that their kids are just playing a game, but don't realize that this game is conditioning these kids to kill, to commit crimes in the virtual world, and then they translate over to the real world. I have seen recently some parent groups who are going after libraries to pull out books and to challenge librarians about what kind of books are there. But honestly, most young people are not sitting reading these books. But young people are spending most of their time on their phones, accessing content that is damaging to their minds and hearts. And as a person of faith, I'm very, very concerned about the trajectory of this industry as social media companies are talking about the metaverse and what you can do in the metaverse, where it's like alternative reality and people can go there and do what would be considered prohibited in the real world, but in this universe, but in the metaverse, they will be able to act on their fantasies and act on their violent inclinations, and that will affect their psychology and affects how the youth in the future we're going to be dealing with.
Amen.
Very good. Well, it looks like we have a lot to talk about in this new series that we're going to focus on related to education, which is very essential because obviously everybody knows our youth are our future in every society. And it's important to hear the message of the faith leaders about their perspectives amongst other leaders from the political spectrum, as well as the academic spectrum and so on. So we hope
And
this series
before I let you lead us out, is the heart of, from faith perspective to us, is the fight against God and religion in the school system. There is a difference between separation of church and state and between a war on religion and a war on God in the educational system that is disarming our young people. So
That's correct.
I think we need to discuss that at some point too.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So our viewers, you can see there's a lot to talk about, and we look forward to your attention and your input in moving forward with this new series on education and how it's impacting society as well as the faith and vice versa. So thank you for our speakers as always, and we look forward to seeing you pretty soon. So we wish everyone a peaceful holiday coming up. We're actually, this weekend is Labor Day, but we look forward to hearing a lot from our speakers moving forward. Thank you for your attention, and we see you pretty soon. Take care. Peace be with you.
God bless.
Thank you.